Hello, everyone, and welcome to the another session of Current Affairs, where we cover the important news of the last week. So, today we are going to talk about the most important events of the third week of November, the period being 15th November to 21st of November. So, to begin with, in a surprise move, the Prime Minister announced to withdraw the three contentious farm laws. So on the occasion of Guru Parv on 19th of November, and Prime Minister came forward and tendered an apology to the entire nation, saying that he was unable to convince a section of farmers, and he wants every farmer to go back to their farms and family. And with that, the government is now going ahead to repeal the three farm laws which were created last year, which were promulgated last year. And the center actually had proposed these bills in on June 5th last year, 2020, and it was cleared by the parliament by both the houses, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, in September 2020 after discussions during the period 17th September to 20th September. Soon afterwards, the farmers began their stir against the three farm laws, which they believe was against them actually, and wanted a discussion with the government about the minimum support price for the crops. The stir actually started from the state of Punjab, and soon other states also joined that. It became a very contentious issue, and from the government perspective. And there was a dialogue which was initiated somewhere around December between the different farmers groups and the government of India, but nothing conclusive came out of those dialogue or discussions which happened over a period of time. In January 2021, the Supreme Court put the three laws on hold and formed a panel to make recommendations. The recommendations by the panel were duly submitted, but instead of working through the recommendation, government has now decided to repeal the farm laws and likely to come out with an ordinance on the same on 24th of November, the coming week. Uh, on 20th January, the government announced actually that the farm laws will be put in abeyance for 18 months, but farmers were not willing for that, and they wanted the government to repeal the three farm laws, which finally has happened actually. Now, what exactly these three farm laws were all about? So, if you look at from a broader perspective, the three farm laws actually, as per the government, the Farmers Produce Trades and Commerce Act 2020, which is part of these three farm laws, allows farmer to engage in trade of their agricultural produce outside the physical markets which are notified by the state agriculture produce market committees. One of the laws also allowed the farmers, or they provided the farmers with a framework to engage in contract farming, wherein farmers can enter into a direct agreement with the buyer, whether it being a corporate house, to sell the produce to them at a predetermined price. So the price was determined before the sowing season itself. So this was one of the laws which was there among these three. And the third one was Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. Now, this act sought to restrict the powers of the government with respect to production, supply, and distribution of certain key commodities. So, the farmer groups actually felt that these laws, once enacted, will actually give a greater control to the private entities, to the corporate houses, and thus wanted this laws to be repealed, which has finally happened. On the COVID front, the government is working on booster policy, and the policy is likely to be announced by the end of this month, November 2021. The National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, NTAGI, will finalize the policy. Over 80% of our adult population has received the first dose by now, and almost over 41% have also got the both doses. The target of the government is to get 60% of the adult population to have both the doses by 31st of December 2021. it is significant to note that many part of the world is witnessing new waves, and there is a clamor for booster dose to avert the crisis. US has already has been already working on the booster doses for some time now. And France, if you know, is witnessing the fifth wave at this point of time. So the requirement for the booster dose seems to be inevitable, and very soon the government is likely to come out with a broader policy, which will define as how the booster dose of the vaccine will be administered to the eligible individuals. On the COVID front itself, talking about the vaccination, India resumed the vaccination exports, which was halted for last 8 months. So initially, when the production of the vaccines began, the two entities, Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute of India, also entered into agreement with various countries and were exporting vaccines to them, especially the nearby countries. But the export of the vaccine was halted, looking at the rising number of COVID cases last year, and with the domestic demand increasing for the vaccines. So, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Iran became the first recipients of the resumed exports of the two vaccines. National Press Day. So last week marked a very important timeline, 16th of November, which is also celebrated as National Press Day every year to mark the presence of an independent and responsible press in India. It is worth to note that the first press commission was formed in 1956, which envisaged formation of the Press Council of India, which was finally created in 1966. The PCI, Press Council of India, started its work on November 16, 1966, and thus November 16 is now celebrated as National Press Day. The press councils actually monitor from a broader perspective. If you look at it, actually monitors all the journalistic activities to keep the credibility of journalism intact in the country, and to also ensure that the press of India, is not impacted by any external matter. So that's a very significant day to remember. Finally, after being shut since March 2020, the Kartarpur corridor has been reopened before the Guru Nanak Jayanti on 19th of November. So last Wednesday, the corridor was open to the six pilgrims who want to visit Gurdwara Darbar Sahib, which is located in Pakistan's Narwal district. Kartarpur is also known as Peace Corridor and was founded by Guru Nanak in 1504 on the right bank of Ravi River, actually. So this corridor was closed in March 2020 after 4 months of its inauguration due to the COVID, and has been reopened amid various requests from the different stakeholders. So those were the most significant and important news of last week. Please do subscribe to our social media handles, Facebook, Telegram, and Instagram, to receive regular updates and quick information about what's happening in the field of law, in the field of legal entrance preparations. Thank you so much.